Roles and gameplay when engaging in an ERPsim logistics game. This section will review the participant's role within a typical logistics game, followed by a round-by-round breakdown examining the roles and processes involved. Similar to the other ERPsim scenarios, participants will self-assign and occupy roles within their respective teams as a means to foster collaboration across the end-to-end process. The purpose is to present and expose participants to core processes from an integrated perspective. For the logistics game, 4 roles are introduced: the sales and pricing role, the logistics role, the procurement role, and the finance role. The procurement role in logistics introduction is automated, hence it will not appear as a role, as seen here. But in the extended version, the procurement role will be managed by a participant using the tiles on the procurement role. Tip: depending on the number of participants in each team, you can also suggest new roles such as analytics or inventory. Sales and pricing role. The individual responsible for sales will continually adjust product prices in response to demand and supply. This critical decision affects all aspects of the enterprise. Let's click on the Prices and Inventory tile. By lowering the price of the products, sales will speed up, but profit margin will decrease and inventories may deplete too rapidly. Conversely, choosing a high pricing strategy will result in higher margins and avoid inventory stockouts, but sales may stagnate. As an instructor, make sure that participants are never selling their products under cost. From the instructor's report in the game controller, this can be monitored in the prices report showing the product costs and selling prices updated daily for each team. To help determine the optimal pricing for a team's products, 3 pieces of information need to be considered: the cost of the product, the operating costs, and the demand elasticity. Demand elasticity refers to how receptive or unreceptive consumers are to price changes. Drastically increasing prices will push them to purchase from competitors instead, who are likely selling the same product at a lower price. This can only be determined through market and sales observations. Achieving optimal pricing also means to account for logistics costs, such as transfer costs, and in the case of logistics extended, transportation costs, and to watch out for warehousing costs. All these costs can be observed in the Finance Overview tile in the Profit and Loss Statement card right here, or by using the Balance Sheet / Income Statement tile here. Note: the market demand is different from game to game, but will remain the same during a given session. In the end of round results of the instructor's report, a company's net margin is its gross margin minus their operating expenses, which includes the aforementioned costs. If they are overlooked, it will necessarily affect any team's net margin. While the metric of success is still the cumulative profit, participants need to keep an eye on their ability to stay cost efficient. This translates into making sure that sales are profitable enough to cover such expenses. Instructors are encouraged to discuss and compare teams' financial reports during round debriefs to help teams better understand which areas they can improve in the next round. Numerous reports are available to participants to make pricing decisions. Within the Sales Overview tile, click on the Product Profitability card for example. This card allows participants to compare product revenues as well as the profits generated. With products selling at significantly different price points, participants need to take this into consideration when comparing each product's revenues. They can review selling prices in the Prices and Inventory tile. For example, instant ice packs are the least expensive product here, yet they are the second in most sales and second most profitable, right after thermometers, which are significantly costlier. The current data, as well as this example, will differ for other simulations according to market demand. This report can also be viewed by round and day. Clicking on the top left dropdown will reveal revenue and profits made on a daily basis. Participants should explore the other sales reports and the ones within the Advanced Analytics row, which will assist in developing strategies to elevate and maximize sales. Logistics role. The individual who occupies the logistics role will oversee and adjust quantities of each product to be allocated to all three regions. This role requires focus and quick recognition of highly sought products, and close collaboration with the other roles to keep an eye on inventory levels, profitability, costs, and procurement. The team's overall stock transfer strategy is not only about the quantities they set. They need to consider which transfer rule to use, push or pull, and how frequent, in virtual days, transfers are to be made. At the beginning of round 1, the transfer quantity fields in the stock transfer planning tile are pre-populated, each with an amount equal or approximate to 25% of any product's initial inventory. For example, the table shows 240 units of instant ice packs to be transferred to the north, which is approximately a quarter of its initial inventory listed at 950 units. This means that when transfers successfully reach their destinations, regions will possess 25% of each product's initial inventory. This is to make sure that the stock is distributed evenly across all regions because market preferences have yet to be observed. When sales are made throughout the round, teams will be able to compare product regional sales. With 3 regions to evenly distribute a product, meaning 75% of their initial inventory transferred within the first couple days, what happens to the remaining 25% of each product in the main warehouse? Because there will not be enough inventory in the main warehouse to meet the subsequent transfer requirements, transfers will be made in proportion to how a product is distributed amongst regional warehouses. Let's illustrate this with an example. There are 230 units of instant ice packs left in the main warehouse, but the fields indicate 240 units must go to each region, to the north, south, and west. In total, the transfer quantity of instant ice packs is 720 units. If exactly 1/3 of 720 units is to be allocated to the north, then 1/3 of exactly what's left in the main warehouse, meaning around 77 units, will be transferred to the north. Alternatively, the logistics representative can adjust a product's total transfer quantity to be equal or less than what remains in the main inventory. In logistics introduction, because replenishment is automated and delivered every 5 days, there is technically no assigned role for the procurement process. However, in teams of 4 or 5, it can be helpful to have a participant assigned to assist both the sales and logistics representatives with analyzing their respective reports. In the introductory scenario, the logistics representative needs to make sure inventory does not completely deplete before the replenishment period. They have to be mindful in not setting a short transfer frequency as well. For example, setting a short transfer interval of 1 or 2 days can be inefficient and costly. Remember, a transfer cost of €100 is incurred when products are transferred to one specific region. The combination of low product supply in the main warehouse after the first transfer and a short transfer interval is a recipe for disaster. Not only will teams incur the same transfer cost by sending less products to their regional warehouses, but with a short transfer interval, teams end up accumulating even more expenses. That being said, it is recommended to choose a transfer frequency close to the 5-day automated replenishment. In logistics extended, teams can avoid dealing with proportions if they communicate with their procurement representative to replenish the best-selling products in a timely manner. This means to take into account the supplier lead time of 1 to 2 days, as well as the transfer lead time of 1 extra day for trucks to reach regional warehouses. Hence, a minimum of 2 to 3 days is needed before any product ordered can be sold to customers. The keyword here is minimum, as it also depends on the team's transfer frequency and when products are delivered to the main warehouse. For example, if suppliers deliver products on day 4 of round 1 and my transfer frequency is set to 3 days, it is likely that the next transfer will happen on day 6, which is a delay of 2 days before they can be transferred to any regional warehouses. If there is enough stock in your main warehouse to meet the required transfer after replenishment, the excess will remain in the main warehouse. The frequency of transfers depends on how much time is given to make sales and deplete inventory. In logistics introduction, it can be intuitive to set your transfer interval higher than the automated replenishment, which is every 5 days. This would mean that transfers will only be made after your stock is being replenished. This way, your team will always have sufficient stock in the main warehouse to satisfy the regional transfer needs. Please make sure to review the push-pull transfer rules as well as the stock transfer frequency as explained in the previous sections of this module. Numerous reports are available for participants to make decisions regarding logistics. On the Logistics role, click on the Outbound Delivery Quantities tile. The stacked column chart displays the cumulative sales of each product since the beginning of the simulation, with each column color-coded by region, which can be identified in the legend to the right. This is crucial in helping participants visualize the weight of market preferences in the logistics game. Depending on market demand, some products may sell better in different regions. For example, it seems instant ice packs and emergency rescue blankets are selling very well in the north, and this new piece of information can push the logistics representative in allocating more of those products for the north than for other regions, and if applicable, can inform the procurement representative on how much to replenish in the next purchase order. Notice that if a product is not sold in any of the regions, it will not appear as a column on the graph. Also, a column will only show regions in which the product in question has been sold. Continuing, for example, it seems we haven't sold any instant ice packs in the West, so it might be wise to allocate even less to this region for the time being. The Outbound Delivery Quantities report will come in quite handy throughout the rounds and will be one of the main reports used by the logistics representative. Procurement role. The individual responsible for the procurement role must execute the MRP forecast and convert purchase requisitions to purchase orders. Beforehand, they must plan for products that are in demand and soon to be out of stock and hold off on those which sales are more stagnant. As teams can only sell products that are in regional warehouses, it is important to first make sure that there is enough stock in the main warehouse to meet the transfer requirements for all regions. In order to do so, inventory replenishment needs to be done periodically. Again, this procurement process is only applicable to Logistics Extended, as replenishment is automated in Logistics Introduction. At the beginning of the simulation, all teams will start with the same initial inventory quantities. As the rounds progress, teams will need to replenish using the preset forecast and the requirements and MRP tile. They can also be adjusted to better fit the unique market preferences of the current simulation. Because the sales forecast is not planning for products by region, it is important to devise a total amount for each product that can fulfill the transfer quantities of all three regions. For example, if a team wishes to replenish 300 units of instant ice pack for the north, 200 units for the south, and 50 units for the west, the forecast for this product will be 550 units. Of course, if a team wishes to plan for only two regions, as the third one still has significant inventory left due to low sales, this is also feasible. However a product is distributed is up to the team. These target quantities or independent requirements will vary depending on the team's procurement approaches and decisions. When running MRP, the system will essentially calculate the quantities that must be purchased to meet those desired target levels and create purchase requisitions. Purchase requisitions quantities are calculated as the difference between the requirements entered and the current inventory. For example, we set a forecast target of 550 units of instant ice packs, but its remaining inventory in all warehouses, main and regional, is 393 units, as seen in the inventory trend report. Hence, the MRP calculation will create a purchase requisition of 157 units. Let's save our requirements and run MRP. Simply running MRP will not actually order the products needed. MRP serves to plan the material requirements. The procurement representative will have to convert purchase requisitions into purchase orders, PO, in the Manage Purchase Requisitions tile. The PO will then be automatically sent to the supplier. Let's see what the Instant Ice Packs purchase requisition is. As expected, it shows 157 units. In summary, the two key decisions to be made by the procurement representative are what are the target levels to set for each product and how often and when MRP should be run and purchase orders should be sent to the supplier. Important note, the total warehouse capacity, which includes the main warehouse and the three regional warehouses, is limited to 4,000 units of products. Ordering products in excess can extend the need to execute MRP run, which in itself incurs €1,000 for every purchase order made to the supplier, but it will potentially exceed the warehousing capacity. If a company requires more warehousing space, additional space can be rented on a daily basis. For logistics introduction, this comes at a cost of €100 per day for every additional 1,000 units. For logistics extended, this daily cost is increased to €300. The cost of additional storage will automatically be billed and paid immediately. Participants will need to strike a balance between which cost is more substantial than the other. Numerous reports are available in the Planning and Procurement Overview tile. Click on the Purchase Order Tracking card, which is also a tile in the Planning and Procurement row in the Launchpad. In this table, crucial information is provided in knowing exactly which products are going to be delivered on which day and round, and can be quite specific, such as how much has been delivered or remains to be delivered, as well as the associated purchasing document. Essentially, this table will update according to the most recent purchase orders made and sent to the supplier. If participants do not see any recent purchase orders despite having executed MRP run, this could indicate that the conversion of purchase requisitions to purchase orders has yet to be completed. Back to the Planning and Procurement dashboard, the Requirements versus Warehouse Capacity card can be quite distinctive, as it displays whether a team's forecast target levels and current inventory exceed the warehouse capacity. Clicking on the card will show the requirements and MRP application, from which target levels can be adjusted if they do not fit the team's procurement objectives. Finance role. The individual responsible for the finance role must monitor profit and loss and balance sheet statements to ensure the team remains competitive and profitable. The finance representative has the ability to also analyze the reports concerning sales and logistics, as these interrelate with financial reports. For example, the product profitability card previously mentioned can be used to analyze which products to focus on, and coupled with inventory related reports can be quite telling when informing sales and logistics representatives on proactive measures to be taken. This way, decisional efforts for both representatives can be alleviated and be less reactive, with the ability to progressively gain traction on competitors. The finance representative is here to provide insight on how to properly manage revenues as well as expenses. During round debriefs, instructors will usually display and compare teams' end of round results, which highlights the essential components of the profit and loss statement. As participants will not have access to the instructor's report during the simulation rounds, the representative will need to quickly pinpoint the areas in which their team can improve on immediately. Throughout the round, they will need to focus on those same elements in their own profit and loss statement. For example, if the team's total sales are much lower than others, make sure to emphasize on increasing sales, whether through lower pricing, more efficient allocation of products, or better replenishment timing. Teams have the ability to stand out when focusing on round-by-round improvements, as well as on consistent end-to-end collaboration and coordination. In the finance row, the net profit loss report shows the progressive trends of both the company's profit and cumulative profit. An important indicator on whether the team is consistently generating profit is to verify that the cumulative profit trend is always increasing. This means that the team in question is making profit on a daily basis. If the trend stays stagnant or worse, decreases, this indicates that no daily profit is being made or the company has incurred a daily loss. Participants will need to immediately find the root cause and stop the bleeding, while quickly revising their current strategies. Round by round gameplay. Running your company. We will now describe what happens in each round of the logistics extended scenario. Keep in mind that the gameplay is fairly similar for logistics introduction, but simpler, as the replenishment process will not be introduced to participants. Nonetheless, the instructor should take a moment to explain how and when teams will receive additional stock. In the logistics extended scenario, round 1 focuses on the sales, replenishment, and finance processes. Companies will sell their initial stock by adjusting their selling prices and will be instructed on how to generate their forecast demand and replenish their inventories. At the end of round 1, most teams will be accustomed to the planning and procurement process, as well as the supplier and transfer lead times. Expenses such as transportation, transfer, and warehousing costs will be discussed. They will need to be mindful of these throughout the rounds. Round 2 focuses on the logistics process, showcasing teams' ability to adjust their transfer quantities to better allocate their products based on the regional market preferences observed in Round 1. The stock transfer concept will be introduced. This will require them to develop a stock transfer strategy, determining the transfer quantities, the use of either the push or pull transfer rule, and the transfer frequency to be set. In Round 3, teams learn to make use of the competitive analytics and fine-tune their pricing and stock transfer strategies. And finally, in Round 4, they will learn about the capabilities of machine learning bots and how they can enhance the ERPsim experience. Round 1 gameplay: Sales, Procurement, and Finance. We are now going to explain in detail what happens in Round 1 and what participants will be doing. Round 1 Decisions. Round 1 of the logistics game focuses on the sales, procurement, and finance processes. The objective of Round 1 is for teams to learn the ropes of the scenario and to sell all of their products as profitably as possible while maximizing sales. They will need to fight for market shares in Round 1. This will come down to their ability to adjust their selling prices to make them as competitive as they're allowed and to maintain a consistent inventory level, avoiding potential stockouts during the round. Participants will begin by making simple yet pivotal decisions from which they will either use as the foundation of their strategies or as lessons learned to improve moving forward. Sales. The individual responsible of sales will essentially adjust selling prices of their products in the prices and inventory tile. This action is warranted on numerous occasions. If sales are stagnant for a specific product, they can consider lowering its price to allow the inventory to deplete more consistently. If the product is selling extremely well and the inventory trend shows a steep downward slope, they can consider increasing the price to avoid running out of a popular product too quickly and missing out on profit margins. With the help of the various sales and inventory reports, they may change these prices according to how quickly inventories deplete or stay stagnant. Remember, end-to-end collaboration should be emphasized throughout the simulation experience. The sales representative will need to communicate with the logistics representative to gauge which products sell best and how they can use that opportunity to increase their prices. In addition, they can base their pricing decisions on the feedback provided by the finance representative to maximize not only sales but also profit. As a simple reminder, the inventory replenishment in logistics introduction is automated, which means that all team representatives need to be ready for their roles for when the stock gets delivered to the main warehouse. In contrast, Logistics Extended will require a team member to be responsible of the procurement process. Communicating with the procurement representative will be key when prices cannot shield inventories from being completely sold out, meaning stock will need to be ordered and delivered for inventory replenishment. Finance. Meanwhile, the finance representative will keep an eye on profitability throughout the round. Many factors can impact profitability, such as transportation costs, transfer costs, warehousing costs, as well as pricing levels. At first, before introducing procurement, the main factor will be the pricing levels. A price under cost will not only rapidly deplete a team's inventory, but will plummet the cumulative profit with no significant impact on their overall revenue. As the game progressively introduces new concepts, the finance representative will need to communicate with the other representative on the team to ensure that expenses, although inevitable, can be offset by an optimal pricing strategy and a timely and accurate replenishment process. Procurement. Around day 5 of round 1, notice that the inventory levels of majority of teams are getting quite low. While you can introduce the planning and procurement process right before starting round 1, along with the sales and finance instructions, we suggest pausing the round around day 5 or 6, or later if inventory levels are not close to depletion, to let teams get familiar with the basic instructions. As the planning and procurement process can be quite complex, this method is not quite as mentally taxing as it allows them to better process new information. Note that the instructor is likely the best person to judge the participant's background and capabilities, and the delivery of the simulation should be adapted to their specific profiles, which may include introducing concepts earlier or later in the rounds. As mentioned earlier, the individual in charge of procurement must be aware of the current inventory levels when adjusting the forecast. The warehouse capacity in both versions of the logistics game is 4,000 units, which includes the main warehouse and all 3 regional warehouses. The penalty of exceeding this limit is a daily storage fee for every additional 1,000 units above the capacity limit. In Logistics Introduction, the daily fee is 50 euros, whereas in Logistics Extended, teams will be charged 300 euros per day. Participants can refer to the job aid or follow step-by-step guidance using DAS and the Fiori Launchpad to review the different costs. The procurement representative needs to make sure that the forecast levels are sufficient to avoid stockouts, yet low enough to stay within the warehousing capacity ceiling. To achieve this, they need to adjust the forecast of each product that best corresponds to the observed market demand. Forecasts can be adjusted at any time during the game if the initial amounts do not meet the requirements. After adjusting the forecast, the procurement representative can run MRP. MRP uses the forecast as inventory target levels and will only order the difference between the forecast and the remaining inventory of all warehouses combined. You can refer to the end of section 2 of the present module for a demonstration of the MRP calculation. The MRP run will create purchase requisitions that are to be converted into purchase orders through the Manage Purchase Requisitions tile. These purchase orders will then be automatically submitted to the supplier, who will deliver the products to the team's main warehouse in 1 to 2 virtual days. The purchase order tracking tile will be updated 1 virtual day following the conversion, and at that point, the procurement representative will be able to inform the other team representatives on when to expect stock and how much will be delivered. Debrief. As you reach the end of the round, it is time to announce the ranking of the teams. As part of the debriefing process, start by higher level remarks on the ranking before dissecting the different metrics at your disposal in the instructor reports. You can also take the pulse of the group. They might need a refresher on some concepts that were more abstract at the beginning of the round, in which case, do not hesitate to quickly demonstrate a concept or a transaction once more. Maybe they could use more time in round 2 to get accustomed with the system. In this instance, you can try changing the round duration of the next round by slightly increasing it to, for example, 12 or 15 minutes. You can refer to section 3 of this module on how to do this. Remember, it is normal, even expected to some extent, that some participants report that the game is moving too fast or that they do not understand everything that is happening. ERPsim is a gamified experience, and similar to video games, participants will progressively become more familiar and comfortable with the simulation in subsequent rounds. The last section of this module will review debriefing techniques in depth. Round 2 gameplay. Logistics. We'll now move forward to what happens in round 2 and what your participants will focus on in a typical session. Round 2 decisions. Round 2 focuses on the logistics process on top of the round 1 processes. The objective of round 2 is to maximize sales by efficiently allocating products that are to be transferred to different regional warehouses. Essentially, teams will take advantage of market preferences, meaning which product sells best in which region. The stock transfer strategy needs to be thoroughly discussed as it can be a complex topic to dive into. Teams will likely have to adjust their transfer quantities, their push-pull transfer rule, and their transfer frequency. These components are detailed throughout the previous sections of this module. Feel free to revisit them. Not only will efficient allocation be a determining factor in this rat race, but minimizing logistics costs is just as important. Logistics. Before starting round 2, introduce the stock transfer planning transaction and the associated report for the logistics role. The individual responsible for logistics will have control on logistics decisions, but this is a highly collaborative task that cannot be accomplished without communication and coordination within the team. 3 key decisions must be made by each team in regards to their preferred stock transfer strategy. First, teams will choose between 2 transfer rules, push or pull. The differences between these 2 strategies have been discussed in the first section of this module. Then, teams will decide how often the stock transfers should be executed, or in other words, at which frequency will new inventory be delivered to the regional warehouses. And finally, one of the most important decisions during the game lies in choosing how much of each product should be sent from the main warehouse to the regional warehouses. This decision significantly impacts the team's ability to respond to market demand. 2 major considerations are to be taken into account when developing the stock transfer strategy. 1. Each time stock transfer is made from the main warehouse to a specific regional warehouse, transfer fees of €100 are incurred for both logistics introduction and extended. Goods allocation is a key element to any team's success. It allows quick adjustments to market demand, but inevitably increases operating costs. 2. Once units are sent to a regional warehouse, it cannot be reallocated to another. It will remain in said regional warehouse until they are sold. General tip: after providing the instructions for the stock transfer concept, allow 5 minutes for the team to strategize amongst each other before starting the round. In round 2, it is not necessary to pause during the round, but do not hesitate to do so if certain teams require additional information or clarifications. Round 2 debrief. As you reach the end of round 2, announce and celebrate the ranking. If for some reason the team has fallen behind during the second round, do not hesitate to look at the ranking based on cumulative profit as well as based on current round profit. While reviewing the end of round results report with participants, compare shipping costs, in other words transfer costs, between teams, as this will highlight the different tactics they have implemented. Round 3 gameplay. Analytics. Round 3 decisions. The main objective of round 3 is for teams to optimize their decisions by using the different analytical reports at their disposal. Analytics. At this point, teams can reassign a team member to this role, or they can each be assigned reports to analyze. Some reports provide more insightful information than others. While teams explore the different reports, provide an example of the type of information they can access through those reports. For example, the competitive analytics report contains 3 different views and can display historical data of all teams. By using the different filters, participants can get pricing and profitability insights on competing teams in this simulation. The price market report provides the average historical selling price for all products, while outbound delivery quantities and geospatial analytics can further highlight regional preferences for certain products. General tip: it is possible that less questions are being asked by participants and that the simulation runs smoother. If this is not the case, consider giving more time for participants to discuss and plan before restarting the round. Changing the round duration according to the group's pace is always possible. Round 3 debrief. Similar to the second round debrief, round 3 debrief focuses on how teams were able to distinguish themselves from others. Verify with them how analytics have impacted the decision making and execution, and how their team strategy has been impacted by the access to real-time information. Round 4 gameplay. Machine learning bots. Round 4 introduces concepts of ERPsim's machine learning bots. This is an opportunity to showcase the combined features of machine learning and intelligent robot process automation, as well as intelligent enterprise. This introduction is optional, but strongly recommended. Found under the SimBot tab in the game controller, our SimBot feature leverages the benefits of machine learning and intelligent robot process automation by incorporating intelligent bots into the simulation context. They can be showcased either as a team of its own, participating as a competitor and implementing strategic decisions, or as an assistant bot, supporting teams of current participants. Round 4 decisions.
As an instructor, you can decide whether to assign the bots yourself to the teams, or you can enable the option to decide for themselves. One of our favorite ways to introduce the bots is to enable teams to select which bots, if any, they would like to use for the team. They can then decide whether to use them as an assistant or automated bot. As assistant bots, you should warn teams that they will always suggest the most optimal strategy at the moment the notification has been sent. But it may no longer be the most optimal course of action if other teams are applying the same suggestions at the same time. This is why for teams to have all automated bots may not bring the best possible results. Rounds 4 through 8. While most people stop at round 4, there is a possibility of playing up to 8 rounds. Note that the number of rounds is set during the initial game setup and cannot be changed afterward. Therefore, consider selecting more rounds than necessary if there is a chance participants could ask for an additional round. Round 4 Debrief. As you progress in the simulation, do not forget to discuss with participants at the end of each round to at least celebrate their achievements. Questions can be tailored to specific groups, but you can also keep the questions at a higher level for now, leaving the more detailed ones for later. This completes the 4th section of this module. In the next and final section, we will review in detail debriefing techniques and questions in the logistics gameplay.